Once I get the all clear that it's gone live, Joanne, then I'm going to go back over to Zoom, and then Kay and I will get started. All right. I think we are clear that it's gone live, Joanne, then I'm going to go back. Okay. I think we are clear that it's gone live, Joanne, then I'm going to go back. Okay. I'm getting some feedback. Hold on. Can you now hear me, Kay, through my phone?
I can hear you.
We're having some technical difficulties. Okay, I'm going to have to mute out on the actual laptop. Anyway, we're good. I look frozen in this picture, though. I don't know. You look frozen, too. What does that look like to you on your end?
You're moving around. You're good.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about the screen then. All right, guys, welcome to my first live on my Facebook page in probably 3 years. Anyway, guys, my name is Jona. I am the founder of the Queen Network. Some call me Queen J, Queen of Queens. And so just a little bit about the Queen Network before we get started. We have an incredible guest with us tonight. Yes, this is season 1, episode 1 of our podcast. Yes, we are going in that direction. We're also streaming live inside of YouTube. So if you haven't connected with us on our YouTube channel, please go there. Subscribe, like, and share. Can't believe I just said that, but I did. Also, you can find us on Instagram under Jona Stout, Queen of Queens, and also on TikTok. So please connect with us. So a little bit about myself, since this is the first episode. My name is Jona Stout. I live in Texas, and again, I am the founder of the Queen Network. What does that mean? What is the Queen Network about? Well, we are a group of professional kingdom women and men, and all it means is when it comes to our finances and to our relationships, we choose to do things the kingdom way. So today I have a friend of mine. We're investor partners, we're business partners, and so forth. So she and I had a conversation. I know it's been months ago. Some of you all know my journey from 2019 up until this time, and she and I was having a conversation about that. I got a chance to get to know her better, and I was like, is that what you do? And we just started talking about marriage, and she's been in a long-term marriage. I was in a long-term marriage, and I'm going to read our bio here in a second, but I just want to let you guys know how we got to this space. When she and I talked, we saw the similarities and we saw the difference. And I said, you know what, people need to hear this. So that's why we're here tonight. I think I tried to procrastinate and put this off to the side, but God was like, no, we need to do it, and we need to do it now. He said to me the last week in January that February for me personally was about visibility. So I had to step out on faith. I've been doing Facebook Lives inside of the Kingdom Investors Club as well as the Queen Network. Well, I'm comfortable inside of those spaces. And so I've been hiding inside of those spaces, but now God has me streaming to my personal page and also to other platforms such as YouTube. So enough about me. Thank you, Satara. Welcome, Anita. So we're going to get into this subject. I want to read a little bit about her. So when we talk, you guys will know she's coming with all the goods for tonight. And again, our topic is marriage. The destination matters. And you'll understand why that topic is that way. So I'm going to read a little bit about it. And I think what I want to do when she's talking, Joanne, thank you so much for helping us out in the background tonight. I'm going to put the link to her website in the chat. And if you can copy it for me over into the Facebook Live, I'd appreciate it. If you can also share the Facebook Live over into the Kingdom Investors Club as well as the Queen Network. Thank you so much, okay? Because I don't know why I was so nervous, but I am. But we're getting ready to do this. So again, Miss Kay, she and I met probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I want to read your vision because I think people will understand this. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get to hold on. I want to get to. Here we go. I wanted to get to the home page because I wanted to call myself. There we go. Knowledge upon precepts. When you log in, we'll give you guys the link. But knowledge upon precepts, empower others to make lasting change. And so I want to read you a little bit about her. Hold on just a second. Our mission. Our mission is to provide a holistic approach to maintaining a healthy and prosperous lifestyle while preparing others to do the same. So under the vision, she talks about the mind, providing holistic coaching and trainers and training serves to assist our clients in creating workable life solutions for the body, providing life coaching solutions to assist our clients in obtaining their goals in a practical and healthy manner. And then the spirit, utilizing biblical principles to ensure our clients create and maintain a work-life balance. I'm going to scroll down here because I normally don't read an entire bio, but I think because of what the subject that we're going to be talking about tonight, I kind of want to read most of it. And here's what it says. Just roll with me for a second. Prior to founding this organization, Kay spent over 10 years working in corporate America in management and over 9 years in student services. Kay has worked in nonprofit administration in the areas of education and ministry. She has also worked as a business adjunct professor and as an adult education course curriculum designer. She currently works as an event and technology coordinator at Saginaw Valley State University. Yes, my Michigan friends, she is from Michigan. During her ministry career, she has also served as VBS, Vacation Bible School. How we know that so well? Director, Sunday school, and children's church teacher, and lay counselor in her local church during the last 16 years. K.H. Perkins holds multiple degrees, including a Bachelor's of Applied Science in Business Professional Studies with a minor in Marketing from Davenport University, Master of Arts in Human Services with a specialization in Marriage and Family Counseling, and a Master's of Christian Ministries from Liberty University. She also holds certifications in pastoral care, HIV prevention, and test counseling for the state of Michigan, life coaching, and women's counseling with the American Association of Christian Counselors. I wanted to read that because I believe, and guys, I'm stepping into purpose. This is like day one, episode one, whatever you want to call it. I have not been live for the most part in this manner in about 3 years. And I'll just give you a little bit of background, and then I'm bringing Kay to the stage. In 2019, you guys know we launched the Queen Network, and we went through the book of Esther, and primarily it was my deliverance from Egypt, if you would, and it was God's strategy, and he was preparing me and so forth and so on. So fast forward, my life changed tremendously after a very long-term relationship ended for me in 2020. Then in 2021, God was trying to show me how I need to live in this season as a seasoned kingdom professional, kingdom woman, right? So as I began to get on this journey, I'm trying to jump back into the Queen Network and jump back into some of the things. He's like, no, you're not ready. You're not ready. And I remember having this conversation with Kay, and she and I both married young. And this is where I'm going to turn it over to her and kind of let her talk a little bit about what you do, holistically speaking, and then go ahead and let's just get into this topic about marriage and why the destination matters. I said we both started out young, but when we started this conversation, our destinations were different. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's have this queen chat, if you would.
Well, God bless you, Queen Jona, and thank you for having me on tonight. Well, this journey started for me a long, long time ago, back in the 10th grade when I met Paul Perkins, elder pastor, associate pastor Paul Perkins.
Did you say the 10th grade?
10th grade.
Wow.
We have been married over 30 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the biology class. He pulled my pigtails and all of that. And I met him on the first day of 10th grade on the front steps, holding my books. And about 2 months into it, we just sat down and had a conversation. And as he was talking to me, the Lord told me, "This is your husband." Now, neither one of us were like church people, but we have both been to church, been baptized, and knew the Lord, but we wasn't saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost at that time. And so we started our journey there. And from there, he joined the military. We went around the world. But when we started, we had the same motivations. We both came from broken homes. We both loved God. we knew that when we got married, it was going to be forever. If I don't like you and you don't like me, you just go to your room and I go to my room and we're going to be all right. And it was no such thing as divorce because we both had survived divorce and abandonment and all kinds of stuff. And the Lord just kind of led us through those 10 years. Our backgrounds were very different, but our destination was the same place. It's just like everybody knows where the grocery store is, but you might take one way and I take another way, but we both knew that we were going to end up at the grocery store together. So it was rocky, and we had to find our way and, how to walk together unless they agree, right? So then we
Exactly.
got into ministry and we survived the church hurts and all those different things. And
That's
then
good.
and that's what started this business, we birthed this business out of church hurt. We good at playing church. We dress
Mm-hmm.
up, we look the part, we speak the lingo, but none of us, at some point, Jesus has to get down on the inside, okay? And I had been at the church as soon as the doors opened and saved the last one to lock the doors. And
Yeah.
I didn't know who God was for myself. And I was still hurting. And so one day I was sitting in church and I saw a vision of a whole bunch of women. It was like a women's day. And they had on these white outfits, but there was blood was oozing from out of their clothes. And they looked beautiful on the outside, but they were wounded.
Mm.
And they had been hurt by people in the church, out of the church. And I just said, you know what? It's time for some real talk. It's time for us to get healed and saved for real. And so I started this because I couldn't find anybody to answer the questions that I wanted answered at that time. And so I believe that you had to be whole, holistically, mind, body, and spirit. And most of us work on one part or the other. Nobody takes the time to put the vision together. And so my husband, he's an HR professional for over 20 years. So he took on the career piece. I have my counseling degree, life coaching. And so I took on the mind and the mindsets to help you to get to where you wanted to go. And now my daughter, she's 27 today. We're celebrating her birthday.
Oh.
She became a personal trainer. So we added her into the business to deal with the body piece.
Okay.
And so since then, we've been tackling this, walking hand in hand and just leaning on the Lord. And that's how I got to you.
Exactly, because someone introduced us through investing and through business. And I used to live in Lansing, Michigan. Now you just relocated from Lansing, so you're no longer in Lansing, but you're still in Michigan. But so I definitely know the area. I think where we want to jump off in this conversation is kind of what connected us was we both married young, but we had a different destination. And I think I started picking your brain, your holistic brain. I'm like, okay, so we both started young. What didn't we? Well, first of all, what I tell women, and I was asked this question the other day on a Zoom, and they see the 40-year marriage experience and so forth. And so I've been married since I was 16, and so I've been married most of my life, and I've never lived alone. This past year was the first time that I lived alone. When you and I had a conversation, though, we started at the same place, is what I saw, because I was like, I didn't know my purpose at that point, and a lot of individuals marry young, and let's just talk about that. They marry young, and maybe it's rocky, like you said, but something you and your husband did, and that's what made me realize the difference. You can't fight unless you got another person in the ring with you. And also, God gives you a free will. So I know when I rededicated my life at 31, my whole life changed. I stopped doing things that I was doing. I started doing the things that I was supposed to do. But when your partner doesn't do that and grow, it can create an unequally yoked situation. So talk about when you guys got to the fork in the road and you realized how different you were. One thing I remember you telling me was the fact that you was trying to change him.
Yes, because he had so much potential. Lord have mercy. I mean, I just knew that he could be so much more than he could actually see himself. And so the first 10 years of our marriage, I spent trying to mold him and shape him into, this person that I knew he could be. And I just frustrated myself. And we had been in the church. I saw things black, he saw things white, and somehow we had to make it to the gray. And so what ended up happening was that I was tired of being frustrated, and I realized that I needed to fix myself. We was on the bus, but we wasn't in the right seat. And so I began to work on my relationship with God and to know God for myself and to ask him to really reveal to me what was frustrating me so much. Was it that he didn't see his potential, or he wasn't being who I wanted him to be? And if he didn't change to who I wanted to be, was I still gonna love him? And was this gonna work out? And as I began to work on me, he began getting to change because I left him alone. I let the Lord work on him.
Don't breathe past that. You did what?
I left him alone and started focusing on me. And I put him in the hands of Jesus where he should have been the whole time.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. I just didn't want you to graze over that because that's a big part. You left him alone.
I did. And within a year, let me tell you, he went from a pew sitter to a minister. And then within 5 years, he was an elder and an associate pastor. And I was like, Lord, I just wanted him to go to church. I didn't want to be a pastor's wife. I don't want to be a minister's wife. I don't need none of that. And
you telling God that? You telling God? I'm not trying to be a pastor's wife. I just wanted him to go to church.
That's all. I just wanted us to go to church together and be involved. That was my end game goal when I started this whole thing. And it took us to a totally different place. But when he gets, and he's one of those people that are military, he was in the military for 15 years. And once he's in, and he's going to follow every step. It's not halfway, and so he was going all the way to Jesus. Now, he wasn't going to just sit at his feet. He was going to be on his lap.
Wow. And I didn't know all of this part. I just remember our journey being so different. And I wanted to bring those differences to the line because there are a lot of women out there, that are divorced. And just a little bit about statistics, guys. 70 to 80%, and help me with this. I think I haven't checked on them in a long time, but 70 to 80% of all divorces are filed by women over 40. And when I looked at those numbers, well, first of all, we know what the divorce rate is. It's a little over, 50%, right? But when I was trying to figure out, first of all, I was attracting these seasoned kingdom women. That's my demographic, guys. That's who I'm called to in both relationships and finance. Seasoned kingdom professional women. And so these are individuals I joke about this. They don't need nobody to pay their rent. A lot of them got their own properties and cars, but they are kingdom women. So they now know what it means to be a wife. They know what submission means. So now they have this education both spiritually and naturally, but they're having some challenges. And I think I want you to address this from a holistic approach because there are a lot of professional kingdom women out there that want to get married again, want to start dating, but holistically, what would you say to them? Because I hear all the stories and I just live through it. And I guess before we get into that part, hold that thought for me because I may not remember exactly what I said, but I want to interject right here. For me, I thought we were going to do the work together. But when only one person is doing the work and the other person is okay with the way things are, it leaves the other person wondering what to do. Now, for me, some of you know my story. I'm a minister and so forth. I didn't entertain divorce because I really was I guess I was caring about what other people would think. you're a minister in the church. I've been in the one particular church. I was in that church for 10 to 15 years. So you've been there a long time. And, I'm going through the scriptures and God is speaking to me and telling me what to do in the relationship, and nothing is working, down to the last step, which was Christian counseling. And so I just remember she basically repeated every scripture, everything that I had been talking about for the last 5 or 10 years. And I almost didn't go because in my mind, I felt like I was like, okay, this is just not going to work, because when you understand the marriage covenant, and I didn't always understand the marriage covenant, but when I understand the marriage covenant about submitting and so forth and so on, and I learned that, started to walk into that. But when the trust is not there, when the man doesn't have that relationship with God, the trust I think is broken. You can help me with that. But I was like always suspect about anything that we did because that connection wasn't there. And so even though I was trying to trust, it was very difficult to trust. It's very difficult to trust someone who is not what we would say is a kingdom man, having a relationship with God, and we'll define it as that, having a relationship with God. So trust was a factor. The other thing was my purpose. I kept trying to move forward in purpose and to do the things that God was calling me to do. But I used the terminology, I kept hitting this ceiling. I couldn't understand why my business would only grow so much. Bank accounts would only grow so much. I would start projects and they would only go so much. And God told me, well, he gave me the structure of the head of household and the wife being the body. He said, you're trying to do this through the covenant, but the covenant has no head. And I kept trying to go to God with my projects and go to God with my this, that, and the other thing. I had no covering. So I'm traveling. I traveling all over the world with basically in that moment what God was teaching me was no covering. And he was saying, I'm your covering. But again, I was being educated about the covenant relationship. And so I just remember one day just like throwing up my hands and going, I don't even know what to do with this, God. And God was like, you really only have two choices. And I've told this before. He said, in that relationship, you did that. You guys did that. I didn't do that. He said, so the only choice you really have is either to walk away from the relationship you created or whatever you created, or you can walk away from the purpose that I gave you before I placed you in your mother's womb. And I had to sit with that for a minute because it was either one or the other. And I said, well, God, I want this to work. I want us to he said, and here's what he said. He said, I gave man a free will. You have to understand, I don't want you to worship me out. I don't want a robot. I don't want you worshiping me in that way. I gave it. So why wouldn't you want a partner that has the free will to love you, to be in purpose with you? And so it was a lot of education during that time. It just didn't happen overnight. It's part of why I stayed so long, along with caring about what other people thought. But I'm glad to be with you here tonight because I can freely talk about it. I am now kind of relaunching my authentic self because I've lived so long not being authentic, afraid of what people thought about my decision and so forth. So let's get back to, I want to help women, professional kingdom women, and I want to help both the married and the single. My friend says marriage ready believers, because I don't know any woman that's connected to me that doesn't want to be married. Some people don't. But the ones that I know do, and they wanted the kingdom way. They want that kingdom man. Now that they have all this education, spiritually speaking. What can you say? Let's talk about the married woman first, who's in a relationship, and she is unhappy, and maybe she's in an unequally yoked relationship. What would you say from your professional, and even just being in this long-term relationship that is successful and he's coming to his own, you're coming into your own, and you guys grew together? What would you say to that married woman? What would you say to her?
Well, let's skip that for a second because you talked about a lot of things. I think if you go back to what you said about how they're divorcing in their 40s, a big part of that is that when we get married, we start to take care of our children, we build our families, and we do not nurture the relationships that we have, which is our marriage. We don't date each other anymore. We don't do the things that we used to do back then. And we're in church every day. You know, your house is tore up, your husband coming home, you looking hit with the do-rag on your head, no makeup on,
That part.
you know, and
Go
then
ahead.
you too tired because you've been at church all day to do your wife's duties. And I'm
Okay.
guilty of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point you grow apart because over the years, what I found when I hit 30, I had this crisis where I didn't really know who he was anymore, and he didn't know who I was because I was working all night, so I didn't have to pay daycare, and he was working all day, and we barely saw each other. And so it was like, I don't even know if I like you. And then I was holding grudges about things 20 years ago that he had long forgot about. And I finally just, it all just spilled out one day. And then what he said, because he, no matter in my mess, because I wasn't always saved. I love the Lord always, but I wasn't always saved. He always covered me with everybody. And that was the key thing. And he didn't even know that I was feeling that way because I had just let this stuff build up over 10 years. And he said, give me 60 days to date you.
Wow.
Excuse me,
And
ladies.
yes,
Yes.
We're getting feedback on Kay's line.
feedback.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't know why we're getting feedback.
Do you have two devices up open?
I don't think so. No, let me see.
Is it like super bad or? Joanne, what I'm gonna do is I've got, because I had to dial in. Remember, we had a technical difficulty, so I'm gonna mute the phone on my laptop to see if that helps. Let me know, okay?
Will do.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Is it still feedbacking?
Actually, no, it's not. It's clear now, I think. Keep
Okay.
talking. Let me check.
Yep. Can you hear me? Is it okay? Because I'm
Yeah,
not
I hear
hearing feedback either. It's Jona's phone.
I know. Keep going and let's see.
Okay. So he asked for 60 days to date me. And we had decided at the beginning that there was no such thing as divorce. So that wasn't an option. But we couldn't continue the way that we were. And at the end of that 60 days, we got to know each other and we started to fall in love with each other the same way we were in the beginning. And we don't do that. We figure, okay, I don't like him, he don't like me, let's get a divorce, let's move on. But if it's something that God put together and you're not unevenly yoked, as you spoke about before, you let God do the healing, you know, and the love covers all of that. So I just wanted to talk about that first because that's why we keep having all the divorces. You got to turn your mic back on, Jona. You can't hear me, Jona.
Okay, that's much better now. It worked.
Yeah, that's a practical tip, ladies. You hear that? You take it away. But that, I just wanted to just basically let the ladies who are listening know that is a practical tip. If you're in a relationship right now, that, you know, if you're missing something and you believe you're equally yoked, then start dating each other again. So that's great. Take it away, Kay.
Yeah, and that's the first and foremost thing. Now, what happens is when people get together, they look to complete themselves. But two broken people don't make a whole person. Hurt people hurt people. And you have to be willing to look at yourself first. Like I was trying to change him to let him see his potential to be the best he could be. All of that for them 10 years that I wasted all that time. When it should have been me fixing me. You know, you can't fix somebody else. It is nothing you can say, nothing you can do, no matter how smart you are, how many degrees you have. There's nothing that you can do can change anybody else. If they aggravating you, it's you that have the aggravation. So you have to work on yourself. If this is something that you truly want, and you have to be sold out. You have to be all in. There needs to be that commitment in the beginning. A lot of times people, they marry these people because they look good on the outside, and, they talk well and they speak well and all these good things, but we get old, and, our butt sag and things sag, and
Oh, both individuals.
both of us. And you get stuff hanging from places that they used to hang. And if you are not loving somebody for what's inside and what's up here, okay, if it's not going to work out. And I think we get into things for the wrong reasons. So that's why I think marriage counseling, premarital counseling is so important. And I cannot say this enough, not just for the spiritual piece, but you need to know that your husband has diabetes in their family. You need to know that your child has eczema. You need to know that they have sickle cell anemia. All these different things are important along the way, because when you have kids, we don't even have those discussions. We just go and say, oh, do you believe in God? And that's not the counseling that we do. We do life.
This part, I want to kind of stop you right here, because this is something I had to address, the health issue. Now, when you're young and you're coming into a relationship, it's a lot of this that you're talking about is not even a subject. It's not even topics that we discuss. I would think as we grow in the relationship, in the marriage, that those topics will come up, but sometimes they do, maybe sometimes they don't. But what I realized was, when a person chooses to not be healthy, is the best way that I can say it, by doing certain things, it didn't dawn on me until I was going through this process with God, that here was my take. I didn't know this when we met. It was kind of kept from me for about 5 or 6 months, and it had to do with smoking. I didn't date people with smoking, but I had no idea that smoking was an issue until about 6 months or a year into the relationship. By this time, I'm emotionally attached, and that's just me being authentic, guys. But it was a thorn throughout the relationship for the entire length of the relationship. But here's what God taught me in my process, was that I was like, okay, no problem. I'm a project manager. I'm gonna mitigate the risk. So I'm like you. I done fixed this in my head. I'm gonna mitigate the risk. As long as you don't smoke around me, we're gonna be fine. But no, we weren't fine, because what became an issue is, now we got tons of health issues, and I'm your spouse. And now we're in doctor's appointments every other week, and we got medications coming out the wazoo, and you got blocked arteries and strokes, and I'm like, oh my God, and so God is teaching me. I remember one day, and I'll turn this back over to you, and I'm really focusing on this because, ladies, and I know primarily this is the Queen Network, when you are vetting a gentleman, some call it dating, I call it vetting, but when you are dating and you're vetting an individual, health matters. I'm going to have a medical physician on there. We're going to have this conversation, because I posted something and she grabbed it right away. She said, we don't talk enough about that in the dating process, because you need to know what his habits are. You need to know if he's even a little bit health conscious, because if you don't, what may not be impacting you right now, in 10 or 15 years with that bad habit, you're looking at medications, doctor's appointments, procedures, and things like that. And I know that we're supposed to be there for one another, but God gives us a free will about everything, even our health. And so one day he said, I want you to go to the cabinet in the kitchen. This is a true statement. I walked in the kitchen, and it was kind of like, it was 2 cabinets divided in half. His was on the left and mine was on the right. Well, I opened up mine, Kay, on the right. I got protein shakes, vitamin C, D, E, F, G, H, pre-workout, post-workout, so forth and so on. I look on the other side, it's all prescriptions to the tune of about 15 to 20 medications. God got my attention. So with that being said, when you are just coming into the relationship, guys, make that a priority, that you understand how they are about health, both male and female. Because if they don't really care about themselves, first of all, it's going to be kind of hard for them to care about you. But if they don't care about themselves, believe me, the impact on their body from that decision is definitely going to impact you. Okay, go back. Okay, I just wanted to, because that impacted me. I didn't see it early on until God revealed it to me, but it did. That hit me hard, and I was like, but I'm healthy. I'm going to the gym. I'm working out. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and so I just was like, okay, I don't deserve to be, at home nursing someone who made a decision. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying, guys. That's something that's really dear to me, because some of you out there, a lot of my friends, we work out consistently. We try to eat well. We hold each other accountable. And so why get with a partner who doesn't? You're creating a problem for yourself. Back to you, Kay. That was so good.
It is. And it's not just the physical health, the mental health. I have people in my family that are alcoholics. I have people in my family that suffer from schizophrenia, mental disease. Um, they've committed suicide. And a lot of times you get into these relationships and you don't even know the history of the family. So you're creating children's lives, that can be impacted by stuff that you could have not necessarily prevented, but the knowledge may have made you make a different decision. And so as you're going through that process of, is this person going to be the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life? Those are some things that you need to consider as well. Now, for my women who either have not gotten married or who have gotten married and it didn't work out, I think the first thing that I need to say to you is, what is your part? A lot of times when we break up in relationships, we have that whole conversation is a narrative of, he did this and I did this. You very rarely hear, you know what, I had some role to play in this. I was abused as a child. I had been raped, and I brought all of this baggage into this relationship. My father left when I was 2, and so for my whole life, I was trying to be an overachiever, overcompensate. I was trying to prove that I was worth staying for. I had worth. And then when you get raped on top of that, then it's like, okay, you're dirty, you're unclean, you're unworthy of love, and as women, we suffer from all these different things and we pack it away inside. And most of the times we don't even deal with that kind of thing until it's too late and we're throwing up on somebody else. And when we bring those things to a marriage, it doesn't automatically go away, especially if a man hurts you, because you're marrying a man. Or we turn away from men totally and go to women. And that's a whole nother conversation that we're not going to have tonight.
We're not going there. We're not doing that tonight. That's a whole other thing. But you brought up a good point. That's why I believe to a certain extent that's on the rise. Okay, for that reason. Good point. Go ahead. We're not gonna touch that because that's a whole nother half an hour. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so as you're beginning this process, you have to purge from what had happened, because you can't change what happened. You have to be in the present. And a lot of times when we try to start new relationships, we're living in the past or we're rushing towards the future. But change and different things can't even come to play unless you're in the present, because the present is the only thing that we have control over. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of a process to get through those things because we don't love ourselves. And I still struggle to this day. When you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. Because you accept things that you wouldn't normally accept if you loved yourself. And the other thing too is that you do things to hurt yourself and others, whether it be verbally, physically, mentally. You cause damage. You're just like a wild wrecking ball, just going to and fro, to and fro. And you have to come to the realization that I have to deal with me. I have to get healed, and I need to do whatever it takes for God to get me into the present, because that's where it happens. You know, when we're born with everything that we need. That's what the scripture says. God has given me everything that I need to be successful. And if you can take a visual of a cell phone, you know how sometimes you crack the cell phone and there's one little crack and eventually it spider webs out. So when my father left me at 2, that was the first crack. Then the abuse came, then the beating came, then the rape came, and it's just spider webbing out. And to the point where you look at your cell phone and you can't even see a face anymore. You know that there's somebody back there behind that glass,
Wow.
but you can't see it anymore.
Here's the thing, there's a whole world behind that glass. But because of that initial crack and all the spider webs out, you can't, oh my God, that's so good, Kay. That is so good.
And it took for me to get to 30 to figure out that was the start of me not believing who God said I was. And how do I get back to the present? Like how? You know, once you see yourself as, you know, not worth staying for, you know, you're dirty and unclean because you were raped, you know, you don't deserve to be loved, you know, all these different lies that the enemy tells you in your mind, it leaves you broken, and it makes you make decisions that you wouldn't have made if you were in your right mind. And I think my biggest step was when I went through inner healing and deliverance service for the first time. For the first time in my life, I heard quiet in my mind. There was no voices. It was so quiet that I couldn't sleep after I had went through the regressions of the things that had left the scars on me, that left those cracks and those spider webs on the phone of my life. And I would suggest that for anybody who really wants to be in a good relationship, a positive, healthy relationship, is if you go through that process.
And you know, we're not going to do that on this line, but I would. Is that something that if they're interested, if they can reach out to you and you can talk to them about that, what that is in detail? Because the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I too had to go through that. The part that I want to add to that is for single women who we all know what the word says about sex before marriage. So we're not here to judge anybody. So soul ties, guys. I mean, soul ties. That is so you got to get rid of the soul ties, because if you don't, you're basically just going to take that into your next relationship. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, soul ties are another big thing, you know. And if for those of you who don't know what soul ties are, it's every time that you're intimate with someone, you give a piece of yourself to that person. And so if you've had multiple relationships over the years, you've given out pieces of yourself, and you can't even be whole if you want to be whole. And that's a whole nother process. I mean, there's so many layers to healing. If you think about healing as an onion, um, you would say, okay, inner healing, unforgiveness. Oh my God, unforgiveness can leave you broken, shattered for years. Um, you know, what somebody did to me, how somebody made me feel, you know, and how it made me, and you're angry for years about things, and you, even if you ever approach that person, they don't even remember. They've gone on about their lives and forgotten all about it, you know, and you're still holding a grudge. So
And back. I'm back. I'm back. And I didn't hear a word you said, but I know it was spot on. I just know when I started talking about soul ties. Okay.
Yeah, I just
Uh,
explained what soul ties were.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much for doing that. Guys, listen, this, we've been talking now probably for about a half an hour, 40 minutes. Joanne, can you check the Facebook page for me and see if we have any questions? Guys, if you have any questions for Ms. K, go ahead and put them in the comment section. I kind of want to go ahead and close out. I want to make sure we've touched on that kingdom woman, primarily, well, any kingdom, successful kingdom woman. You're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, and you know things are not as they're supposed to be. And we've given them some tips how to jumpstart that. Hopefully your partner is open to that. I love the 60-day dating. I think that's beautiful because it's almost like you're getting a fresh start. So if he's open to that, ladies, then, have that conversation. I believe a lot of what happens is, when we first met, even young, 19, 20, we talked all the time, on the phone, falling asleep on the phone, talking about nothing. Now you got plenty to talk about. Now no one's talking. So let's try to keep that communication going because that's important and getting to understand who we are as individuals. My own personal journey was I woke up to who I was. And then I realized, and it wasn't just that relationship, there were other relationships that I connected to old Jona to. Well, then when the new Jona woke up, she's born again and she's moving in purpose and now she's hearing God and God is saying, I've called you to do this and now I want you to do that. And that conflict with this person's personality and so forth. Now I got all these decisions to make. Whereas I believe if I could have tapped in, or either we grew together, if I had tapped into that, I'm not quite sure. That's Joanne. I'm not quite sure how we would have navigated that, but we didn't grow together. And so you said something early on that caught my attention. I think that's why we're here tonight, because I said, that's it right there. We stopped growing together, and I'll say this, because here's one of the things that the therapist told us. He basically said, I wish I could have gotten you guys 15 years ago. Because she would have been, the tools that she had could have helped us do exactly what you guys did. You know what I'm saying? And then, yes, she was a Christian counselor, but she did give us some tools to kind of, if we were going to try to make this work or whatever, but we had kind of already gotten to that place and some things that had already been done. And God had really already had spoken to me. But I love what you said in the beginning was that you left him alone and started working on yourself. To my marriage-ready believers, single ladies, that's what you should be doing right now before you even get in the relationship, because that's going to give you a head start if you're working on yourself because when you start vetting someone, now you're working with a different foundation. You're not knowing your purpose. You're not knowing yourself. So, Joanne,
We do have
there any questions?
We have one
Okay.
question, yes.
Okay.
Kenya Campbell said, Kingdom professional, seasoned women need sex, love, and affection. If we leave or don't have husbands, that puts one in quite a bind. Can we talk about that?
Oh, I love to talk about that. And Kay, I'm going to say this, and you can chime in. And I want to make sure I understand the question. Basically, what she's saying is, and I don't know if she's coming from a single woman perspective, or she's coming from a marriage divorce perspective. But either way, and we're talking sex here, okay? Because I don't shy away from that at all. So here's the thing. I now understand, being a single woman now, I now understand why God had these principles laid out the way he did. It was to protect us. Because we dipped and dabbed in things, and I'm not talking about rape and all of that, because even as a young child, I was fondled. So some things got opened up to me when I was around 11 or 12 years old that should not have been, okay? So we're dealing with emotions and things, and let's just talk to the women. We're dealing with emotions and things that either we should not have been exposed to, or we voluntarily exposed ourselves to. Because I believe when the man and woman comes together the way God meant for it to be, he meant for us to come together knowing nothing. And the discovery was supposed to be with one another and not comparison to what we had last year or the year before. That's in a perfect scenario. And I got that as I stepped into my singleness, because God is just helping me understand. I get it now. I mean, it's one thing to be unequally yoked, but if I've exposed myself to all these different people or one and two people, and now I got this new person in my life, and I mean, if I hadn't done it that way, I wouldn't really have that to compare. Now, let's go to the marriage, the person that's in the marriage, and they're now divorced. I really, honestly don't believe there's anything you can't get through without the power of God and the Spirit of God. I'm going to open it up to you, Kay. Come on and chime in here with me. Can you hear me okay, Joanne? This thing is saying my audio is.
We can hear you fine.
Okay.
I hear you,
so,
yes.
Okay, great. So I want to make sure that I heard your question correctly. And it's sounding like the young lady is asking, been in a relationship, maybe been married, but then once you get out of it, because of your body and the things that your body goes through, how do you deal with that?
Kenya said, she says, I'm a married woman in my 40s. I'm speaking to my needs as a woman.
She's a married woman speaking to her needs as a woman.
Yes.
So I'm assuming, without her saying what she's saying, that she's not being fulfilled in a relationship. Because the marriage bed is undefiled and sex is good. So God don't have a problem with it. Yeshua don't have a problem with it. So we shouldn't have a problem with it.
Facts.
But now I will say this, and I'm hearing this a lot in women, that ladies, we have to start speaking up.
That's what I was going to say.
We have to start talking, because let me tell you something. He can't read your mind. If there's something he's not doing, and you know what, I'm going to just say it. Some of y'all in relationships, and this guy think he hitting a beat of the drum, and you ain't doing, he's doing nothing. And I'm going to say this. What our elders say, you can get more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. The time to talk to him about it is not at the end of what's happening. Find another time outside of that time. Say, baby, this ain't nothing happening. It might have been good for you, but it wasn't good for me. Okay? And he should be okay, because most men, they want to please you. They want to make you happy. But if you don't tell them that, because honestly, there's no book for that. Where do you think they learn what they're doing? From their friends, or maybe their daddy, or the cousin, or the play. I heard something the other day. A little boy told another little boy something. No, he's not giving sex education out on the playground. Are you kidding me?
Kenya said she's not talking about herself generally, but talking about, I'm not talking about me, but our needs as women, especially if we don't have a man.
Okay, I think right now I'm a little confused. So, I mean, I understand she's not talking about her, but she's saying for if you don't have a man, because first I thought she said was in a relationship.
She was talking generally, not necessarily about herself. Said not just sex, but about love and affection.
So you're needing love and affection. So help make this clear for me. Are we in a relationship, or are we not in a relationship? Or maybe we were and we aren't anymore. So that's different. Because if you're in a relationship, that's a whole nother conversation, like what I just said. But if you're you need love and affection right now, and you're not in a relationship, and Kay, correct me, I don't mind being corrected, but for me, what has happened for me is, once I came to know myself, I started attracting different.
Yeah.
And so I have friends in my life, both male and female. And what's happening is, an individual male friend, and the pursuit is different, because I understand more now. I know who I am, and I'm attracting different. So we may be friends or business partners or whatever, and now we're talking personal, but that level of respect is there. So I'm getting that love. I'm getting that love from him, from my female friends, from my male friends. I'm getting that, and I would love if we could. We're gonna have to start bringing some guests on so they can so we can actually have the conversation. I think that's what this is teaching me, that I want to be able to bring guests who want to come live with me, because I love talking about this. Because if you are in a relationship and you're now out of a relationship and you want that love and affection, what it sounds like she's saying, Kay, and then I'm done, because this part of the relationship I love to talk about. I don't shy away from it because it's real. Is that you want love and affection, but you're not necessarily dating, or you haven't found anyone. What are you supposed to do with those emotions, Kay?
I'm going to echo. Turn off one of your mics. You got on two. Your phone and the other one.
All right. Let me see what's happening here. Guys, I apologize. My mic, for whatever reason, something's weird is going on my
So
laptop. I'm sorry.
There's two sides to what she's asking. I think the biggest thing that I would tell that person is that in order for you to get the love and stuff that you feel like you need or deserve, it comes from inward first. Um, when you have self-loathing and self-hate, and you just really are not happy with yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else does. Nobody can make you happy but you. And as far as the physical needs, if you're in a relationship with someone, you have to be able to express that. When we got to the point where we had fallen out of love, my husband did go get a book. He read a book about the joys of sex and different kind of things, and he asked me what I liked. And I think when God is in the relationship, there's no fear there in those questions. What do you like? What makes you feel good? It's for him, it's always been, if you're not enjoying this, I can't enjoy this. And so it comes back to the partner that you're with. And if you're by yourself, once you do that healing process and learn to love yourself, you attract, like as Jona said, you begin to attract people towards you. And you get that love in various different ways, whether it be from a man, woman, or child. It's just so, I cannot tell you how many times that I've been in different jobs or in different places that people just love me. Like, and I'm like, I don't know what I've done. I wasn't trying to do that. And they become dependent on me. So now, and before it was like, I don't like that girl. I don't like her attitude. I don't like, until I fell in love with me, because I was a hot mess. I'm like, I ain't gonna lie. My tongue, even if I didn't curse at you, I could write a letter that could cut you like a knife. My husband called them poison pen letters. And I was mean. I can honestly tell you that. I'm not even gonna lie. But Jesus saves. That's all I'm gonna say.
Come on.
So it's here first. When it happens here, all the other needs get met.
Absolutely. Like you said, hopefully you guys can hear me okay. We're getting ready to close out. This has been great. I knew it was going to be powerful because I've been getting resistance for the last hour and a half, but we pressing through and getting it done. Hopefully, I believe her name was Kenya. Hopefully that helped. But what this did show me is that I want to be in the position to be able to bring the guest live with me. So I'll be working on that for the next podcast, because we want your questions answered. A lot of things when it comes to relationships, honestly, weren't taught. We got the Bible, Jesus' journey and him dying and what we're supposed to do as a kingdom person. But when it came to the dynamics of the relationship, we didn't get taught about that. And what I see is we kind of preach to each other, ladies, our girlfriends, and we talk about certain things, and maybe the guys do the same thing. I don't know. Y'all do that. But we do. And it's just a lot of things we just don't talk about. And I believe, the Bible talks about the elder shall help the younger. And I'm attracting millennial women now, where they're asking me these questions, and I'm not shying away from it, because you shouldn't be in a covenant relationship. And God says it's, in his eyes, it's beautiful, and you're unhappy. something's not right. Marriage is beautiful, and so God did it, and you should be happy. And yes, we walk through things because we leave those relationships, and then our physical goes through a metamorphosis, our spiritual has to go through a metamorphosis, and all of those need help and healing. All those areas will need help and healing, or like Kay said, you'll be taking that into your next relationship. And so some of us just don't really need to be talking to anybody until we whole, I believe. This entire past year has just been absolutely amazing. My time with God, I had the most awesome summer, and I believe He just wanted me to be with Him. And I needed to heal from some things of my past before I take this into another relationship. Joanne, before we sign off and I give Kate final remarks, was there any other questions in the group? And I believe it was Kenya. Thank you so much for that question, being bold enough to ask that question.
No, there is no other question.
All right, ladies. Well, you're going to get to know me very, very well. We're not going to shy away from these relationship and even finance type of questions when it comes to professional kingdom women. That's what the Queen Network and what these podcasts are going to be about. It's going to be all things queendom. And so when it comes to your relationships and your finances, we're going to deal with it. And I know that sometimes it's going to get a little touchy in the relationship, but we need to, because we need to be informed. And you need to know you're not the only one that's thinking that way. You're not the only one that's going through those challenges. And so God has just connected me to some phenomenal women. Jona Stout is not the Queen Network. The Queen Network is made up of professional kingdom women. They're lawyers, they're VPs, they're directors, they're entrepreneurs, they have their own businesses, they're published authors, they're medical doctors, they're attorneys, you know what I'm saying? So they're bringing their expertise as a professional kingdom woman to the Queen Network. That's who the Queen Network is. So Kay, give us some final comments. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Joanne, thank you for being the admin behind, because this was really crazy the first 10 to 15 minutes. So thanks for keeping us on point. I wanted to make sure that the broadcast was as best as we could do. Kay, any final words before we sign off?
Yes, I just really thank you for this opportunity to just share, just have some real talk, because there's more of this needs to happen. Everybody's going to church and doing all this stuff, but real talk helps people get healthy and get to a better place. If you guys need resources, please visit our website, knowledgeuponprecepts.net. We have podcasts, we have a YouTube channel. We do a lot of inspiration. We do workshops and Christian education, and many different things and tools to help you on that journey to get to healthy relationships, and not just with somebody else, but with you. Because that's the most important relationship you could have, is your relationship with yourself, and to be able to sit in a quiet place and not be afraid of the quiet. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So God bless you, ladies, and just strive to be healthy, mind, body, and spirit. Thanks,
there you go. I don't think anything else needs to be said. Thank you for joining me for this very candid Queen Chat. Ms. Kay, thank you for joining me tonight. Ladies, thank you for connecting with us on Facebook. We will upload this to YouTube. We have some technical difficulties even over there, but we couldn't be stopped. This podcast was going forward tonight. Guys, have a great night. I'm Jona Stout. See you next time. God bless. Bye-bye.